They are back. It's time for Red America Radio. Straight up conservative talk for today's red-blooded America. With the host of Behind the Headlines, TV's Karen Turk, and Dr. Chris Metzler, political commentator and best-selling author. Making radio great again. Red America Radio.
Hello and welcome once again to your favorite everywhere cast, Red America Radio, with me and the forever lovely, the hostess with the mostest. And when I say mostest, I mean the most scandal, everything. She had the most amazing time in DC, which we'll talk about. So always Karen Turk. Hey, girl.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here. I want to go back to DC. I mean, I love Palm Beach, but what an amazing time I had in DC. Like epic, beyond epic. And I know you're doing some epic things that we can't talk about yet, but on the next show, we're going to talk about your epic, amazing week that you're going to have. But the Freedom Tour was off the chain. Joy Villa, Bryson Gray, CJ from Deplorable Choir, Dr. Cordy Williams. I mean, I could go on and on and on about the people that I got to spend time with over this weekend. I had the best time, like time of my life.
And I saw you in those red pants. You were working it, girl.
Thank you. Yeah. And who knew, I got hundreds of comments about those red leather pants, which are from Zara, which is one of my favorite stores. So anybody who's curious about the pants, yep, they're from Zara. And what a great purchase they were. And I'll definitely be rocking those again. I feel like I should have them in every color, but red's my favorite color.
Yeah, and I mean, the tour looked absolutely amazing. Since I was tied up in other stuff, I couldn't do it, but it looked absolutely amazing. As I was following you throughout the tour, it just looked fabulous. And really, the work that you did, Joy and others this weekend, really helps to keep America great, which is what we do as conservatives.
Absolutely. It was, there were just, what was so amazing about the Freedom Tour is we had young Pharaoh there also, and he had a lot of people that came out, and the diversity of our march was unreal. You had every shape, color, creed, religion, all together. Yeah. I mean, again, maybe we don't agree on every single thing. I'm sure young Pharaoh and I probably don't agree on a couple of things, but the beauty of how we were all able to embrace each other and this core value that Donald Trump is the choice for president in 2020, and that we all respect the Constitution and respect America and respect our freedoms. It was just so beautiful to watch. And, as we marched, people joined the march. So we had thousands of people out there marching, and we were competing with the Women's March, which of course got all the media coverage. Surprise, surprise. So they came out, and there were like a couple of protesters, like one guy stuck his middle finger up at us. So we started chanting F you, F you, F you back at him with the megaphones. Thousands of people as we walked the streets of DC, and we had so many people cheering us on, and it was mind blowing. And I brought my son with me because I really wanted him to see, what this was like. And it's so important. He's going to be starting a Turning Point chapter at his high school. And, I'm an ambassador for Turning Point USA, which a lot of influencers are. But it's so important for us to get millennials involved and interested. And I don't even know what generation my son is. He's 14. So I guess he's like a Generation Z, or I don't know, ZZ. I don't even know what they are anymore, but we got to get young people engaged and involved in our cause, and engaged and involved in believing in freedom and the Constitution, because the left has done such an unbelievable job of brainwashing.
Right.
And we have to do the same thing. We have to influence, not brainwash. We need to influence people to be free thinkers. And the Freedom Tour certainly accomplished that. And I had a woman that I hired as well who was doing some work for us there. And she was actually a registered Democrat. And after the event, she sent me a very nice email and said, I've changed my mind about a lot of things after hanging out with all of you. So that was really cool. I think out of the whole weekend, that was one of the best things that I got out of it. It was really rewarding to hear that.
Well, and how cool was your son hanging out at the Trump International? I mean, that I saw those photos. I was like, yeah, there you go. I mean, he was so cool, just right there at the Trump. It was amazing, and
it was great.
He was having such a good time. It was great. I saw all of that, and I thought, yeah, next generation, whatever the letters are, I have no idea, but whatever the letters are.
It was amazing. I just had the most incredible time, and God bless 1776 Forever Free for starting this. Everybody should go on their website. We interviewed Dr. Cordy Williams last week. That's a great interview. If you didn't catch it, go ahead and catch it on Spotify. You'll find more about him, the Megaphone Marine, why he started this organization, and just why you want to be a part of this movement. This is a movement that I think everybody should be a part of, because it's a movement that embraces everybody. And this isn't about it's not about partisan politics, I should say. It's not about being on one side of the aisle or the other. It's about defending our constitutional republic, defending freedom, and knowing that right now we don't have a choice. If a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for socialism. And that's where everybody needs to come together and realize that that's what we're fighting against. And now is the time to make a difference.
Okay. And folks, know that you've been enjoying this show, but we got to take a quick commercial break. Here we go.
Divided We Stand. The Search for America's Soul is the most important book of our time. Best-selling author Dr. Christopher Metzler answers, "What the heck is going on, America?" Divided We Stand is a funny, fast-paced, razor-sharp, savvy critique of the state of our union and the disastrous reign of Barack Obama. Political lion slayer, red-blooded conservative Dr. Metzler offers inspiration and a positive message to America. The way to fight back and win is principle, conviction, and a wicked sense of humor.
In the days of clickbait news and salacious eyeball-popping headlines, you must delve behind the headlines. Things can get so murky on the internet that it's hard to see. Behind the Headlines TV on YouTube delves deep to fully expose the real truth. Each episode, Karen Turk wades through the swampy news in thigh-high boots, breaking facts down into bite-sized pieces. Subscribe to Behind the Headlines TV to see her dominate YouTube with real facts behind today's biggest stories.
And we're back. Yeah, and speaking of making a difference, I mean, we have an amazing show this week. The doctor with the red turban is in the house. I mean, he is absolutely amazing. The conversation that we had relative to his research on Trump's tweets. This guy has read every single one of the president's tweets, not just for fun, but as a way of earning a PhD in social media. And I mean, it is absolutely fascinating. So I think folks are really, really going to enjoy this week's episode.
And it was just, it's amazing when you meet someone who's such an intellectual, so, scientific and analytic. And Dr. Ravi is one of those people. And we should cut to that interview because I think our viewers are really going to like it.
Yeah, here you go. And look at the red turban, folks.
He's the best.
So we are joined today by Dr. SIngh. Now, he has amazing stuff to talk about, particularly Twitter and Twitterism. So we're introducing new realities into our vocabulary and our lives. Dr. SIngh, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be on your show.
So tell us about the fact that you have read all of the president's tweets. Exactly how many were there?
There's over 56,000 tweets. He's been tweeting since May of 2009. And I actually just didn't do it as a hobby. I did it to actually get my PhD. You can actually get a PhD now, believe it or not, by studying all of Donald Trump's tweets. Oh. And it's one of the first PhDs in social media and technology, specializing in that field. So very, very excited to share some of the results with your viewers on what I found. You guys, believe it or not, is one of the first that I'm sharing my results with publicly.
Oh, well, we always like to be the first. And it's interesting to me that you can get a PhD in social media. I wish I knew that when I was doing mine in law and I mean, law and science, life sciences versus social media. I would have loved to have one in that.
Yeah, no. In fact, if you grow up in America, you're born in America, and you have strong Asian parents like I did, then education is necessary. And I thought I was done after getting a master's in political science and et cetera. I thought that was it. But no, either you become a doctor or you're an engineer. And Dad said, no, you're going to become a doctor. And I said, Dad, what if I become a doctor of social media? And he goes, what are you talking about? Doctor of cat videos? No, I'm not a doctor. So anyways, but yeah, no, I also got a secondary master's degree in communication from Liberty University as well. That's why I'm wearing the red turban. I'm conservative in my beliefs, so it was a little bit harder getting this PhD. I had to run my results 17 times in order for it to get approved, but I did it, and I'm very happy to be here and share what I've learned with your audience.
Okay, so let's get right into it. So what did you learn from the president's tweets? Give us a profile.
So I think the most fundamental thing is that a big topic is Donald Trump's tone, right? Everyone talks about how his tone is wrong or his tone is off and et cetera. And no one had ever studied the tone in social media posts. And so I used artificial intelligence to actually measure the tone of each and every single one of Donald Trump's tweets. And I measured it against his engagement. So how the followers engaged back. And when we engage on Twitter, we can do three things. We can like, we can retweet, or we can reply. So that's what I did. And I found out that there is a correlation that how we use tone matters when we actually want to see an increase in engagement among our followers. So it's very important what Donald Trump is doing. Using tone is fundamental.
So give me an example of if you have one available, about tone and engagement, because I'm fascinated by the fact that actually the tone will or could have the potential to actually increase engagement, because on Twitter, it is engagement that we're looking for, but engagement. So give me an example as to how that worked in any of the studies you've done.
So let's first define the term tone, right? Tone is a willing attitude of a leader. It is the mood that the leader is trying to convey to the follower.
Right.
So if we look at it in terms of a normal feedback loop, you have the leader over here, you have the follower over here, the leader talks to the follower then goes ahead and engages back. So this is what happens in social media constantly, right? Donald Trump tweets, we engage, and it goes back and forth. But when we see that when he tweets with a tone, his engagement either goes up, but when he uses a tone with high intensity or low intensity, the tweet actually decreases or fluctuates on the tone and on the tweet itself. So what that means is, like, for example, everyone says Donald Trump's always angry. Believe it or not, it is the least tone that he's ever used among the 7 tones that I found. So he's actually more joyful than he is angry. So this narrative that's out there in the media that he is angry all the time in his tweets is not only selective, but it is incorrect. Donald Trump is actually joyful, and this is not me saying this. This is actually a machine, algorithm, artificial intelligence, 95% accurate, that is saying that he is always more joyful in all of his tweets. That shows us very clearly that when Donald Trump is actually joyful, there is a weird thing that happens. We see lower engagement. But when he's angry, we see higher engagement.
Right.
Then talks to about Chris, right? His audience, right? Yeah. Who is actually following him? Well, we have some friends and we have some foes.
Yeah.
And so naturally, that is affecting the way his engagement rates are happening on Twitter. And that's one of the reasons why he viralizes so quickly online.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So tell us about this whole concept. I'm fascinated by language. And so this whole concept of Twitterism, what is it? Where do we find ourselves in it? How is it affecting our lives?
So when I was getting my PhD, I was, being a minority myself, growing up in the United States with a turban, I think we've all seen racism and different isms that affect us, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw that we were starting to judge leaders not by what they were saying, but how they were saying it on Twitter. All of a sudden, newsflash, breaking news, this said on Twitter, right? And we were starting to display the tweets of world leaders as official voices of their communication. This is very fascinating. This is a complete change from what we've never seen before, right? We've seen press conferences going away. We saw that Twitter was dominating headlines. But Donald Trump sometimes tweets anywhere on the average of 14 tweets a day to over 100 tweets in a single day. Mm-hmm. So we have the media and the general public picking and choosing, only seeing the tweets that are being displayed on the media. So they're usually picking tweets that have a negative sentiment and drive just a negative feeling. And this is very interesting because the things that he's saying positive are not being circulated. The things that he's saying negative is. So in essence, we're entering an era of Twitterism where we're judging our leaders by not what they say, but how they say it. And on Twitter, Twitter has replaced literally the press release. It's replaced the soapbox of American politics, if not for all global leaders. In fact, other world leaders actually in their political briefs get the presidential's tweets as part of the reports because he's actually shaped even world diplomacy using Twitter. We have never seen this kind of leadership done by any world leader in the history of online politics or in the history of democracies, where he has successfully used a form of 280 characters so craftily that actually changes the whole shift in diplomacy, world affairs, economies, etc. His tweets even move the stock market.
So, but from the standpoint of going to, Twitterism, are we in danger, though, of becoming a global people who are intellectually lazy and not intellectually curious? I think that's a fair question to ask.
An excellent question to ask, Chris, and you're exactly right. I mean, there's the utopia of the internet, where it was supposed to be free and fair, right, and open to everyone. And then there's the dystopia of the internet, which is basically now some of these social media platforms are saying, we will determine what is fake, we will determine what is real, we will go ahead and restrict your engagement. New policies are being implemented by these platforms that are actually changing the rules of how we express our voices. And this is a big question, and you're right. The narrative of how we define our participation is being defined not by the Constitution and not by our freedoms. They are being defined by the rules and regulations of the Twitter private policy.
Well, and that's the thing, because then, again, the folks who are making those rules, surely they're not making it absent their political, ideological, etc. biases. I mean, that much is clear. So it then, I think, has the potential of being able to, harm free thinking, free speech, all of those kinds of things, because essentially it is, a group of overseers, for lack of a better word, which raises, I think, a serious political question, right, and also policy questions.
No, you're right. And that's where the ism comes from, right? I mean, especially in the now today, we are seeing this more and more so. And as these rules are being defined, we are allowing our freedoms and our ability to tweet, our ability to post on Facebook. All of these things are being interpreted by someone who has no scientific background, no interpretation, no data. And that's one of the reasons why I created actually this website, twitterism.com, So it not only analyzes what I studied in my dissertation, but you can go in real time and you can just see right now. In fact, during this interview, we see that Donald Trump is 77.5% joyful right now. That's his mood.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's amazing. That's amazing. And you know, it's so hard. Big tech has become this almighty big brother for all of us, especially conservatives. I mean, my engagement on Twitter is so minimal, and it's because I'm shadow banned. Yeah. You know, I'm actually surprised that they've allowed Donald Trump to stay unblocked to some respect. And I'm sure he's probably occasionally shadow banned as well, but they've allowed him to do that. And I think it's because they misinterpret the tweets that he puts out, and they want to continue this whole negative narrative about it. So they keep him engaged and they keep him up on the platform, but then they try to spin it that it's negative when in fact, as you're saying, it's mostly positive.
Right. And Karen, one of the reasons why I decided to do this was not because, you know, I'm a conservative or et cetera. I wanted to prove scientifically. I wanted to not prove by my opinion, not qualitatively by other people's studies, but quantitatively that what the president doing was so significant on the way we're shaping how we communicate to our citizens, right? When he was a businessman in that persona, he was communicating to get investors and to have people watch his reality show. When he was a political candidate, he was trying to get voters. But when he became president, he was communicating to all citizens. You know, and that's the amazing thing. His voice has changed in each of the personas. And he himself has been a practitioner of this, meaning that he himself has mastered this. You know, in 2015, he didn't even know how to use the hashtag, but he's used the hashtag before. But he has now used MAGA hashtag or Make America Great Again hashtag consistently. And he's learned the jargon or the lingo of this language. And we're talking about someone who's like the age of my father. You know, I mean, I can't even imagine my dad tweeting. So he's mastered this online platform and used it successfully because he understands that his 85 million followers, ranking him one of the top 10 accounts, I think he's 7th or 8th right now, it fluctuates, in number of followers around the world. Can you imagine he's one of the top 10? That 85 million, and that's exactly why, Karen, these big techs are concerned and platforms like Twitter have had trouble suppressing or monitoring him or trying to even shadow ban him because he is so influential to the reach. You know, with literally 300 million active users, and this man, this leader, this president has literally 85 million of them, and they're successfully engaged. You can imagine the percentage that he controls on Twitter. And I don't think anyone has looked at it from that perspective.
That's a great perspective. I hadn't thought about that before, but when you say that, it makes so much sense. It makes total sense why he's not, because he influences such a huge portion. They can't do anything to him. That's magical. Magical.
That's right.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so he's right to say to some degree that, you know, Twitter needs him and he needs Twitter. You know, there's a great relationship. But, you know, going on to what Chris was saying, you know, one of the elements was to measure also the followers. You know, when I analyzed the data in 2018, he had 56 million, you know, certain amount of followers, millions of followers at that time. He wasn't up to 85 million. And I took all of those followers and I looked at the follower change. So let me explain this very simply. As he continues to grow, his followers continue to add value on that number. So of course that would change the number of engagement, right? That makes sense. So in my study, I scientifically controlled that as a control variable. So after the growth of his followers, did this still make a difference? And it did. And so on the website, twitterism.com, you can actually see the follower engagement index. So what that means, Chris and Karen, is that just similar to the stock market, you can see if he's going up or down or fluctuating on a daily basis. And I predicted when he made the announcement of COVID-19 tweet at 12:54 a.m. that this would become one of the most popular tweets of all time. And it was, as long as he didn't retweet again. So I said, as long as he doesn't tweet again and again and again, he won't have what I call follower saturation or engagement saturation. and he would be very successful because he sort of lets the tweet marinate and it sort of just gets more and more people on it. And because he's not saying anything, they have nothing else but to engage with that one tweet.
Oh, fascinating. And so as we're looking, we're weeks away from the election. And so what impact do you think Twitterism is having on the election?
Well, number one, that's a great question, Chris. Fantastic question, because I think we are on unprecedented times. I think this interview that we're doing will actually be in the history books along with others, because people are trying to understand how Twitter will shape the elections, because not of the platform, because of the man on the platform, which is Donald Trump. When you compare Donald Trump to Joe Biden, who doesn't even have a fraction of the penetration that he has and the device that he's using, you can clearly tell that Joe Biden's tweets are coming from a software which we call TweetDeck or some software, where Donald Trump's tweets are coming directly from his iPhone, which has been validated that he has a special iPhone just for his tweets. You can see the difference on how the leaders are communicating with the people. Twitter gives us a peer-to-peer communication. It builds the relationship. And in this election, like so many elections in online politics, and I know I ran political campaigns for over 9 world leaders. I had a software company that did online politics. It is so fundamental that there is a relationship built between the follower or the potential voter or the volunteer or the donor and the leader. And Donald Trump has used Twitter in a way that we've never seen before. And if Twitterism takes place and more regulations are being put upon him and more selective tweets are being tweeted by the media, they are shaping a narrative offline that could hurt his chances for getting reelected.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the important thing that I want everyone to know is that your study was actually a quant study and not a qual study, meaning it was actually quantitative, scientific, and that it was not, I asked 10,000 people their opinions and they said that. Qualitative has its place, but when you're trying to do exactly what you have done, you have gotten to the quant aspects. And I think it is extremely important for folks to understand that, because this is not junk science. This is a quantitative study.
Yeah, and thank you, Chris, for clarifying that, because the academia world, I was in the practitioner world for 20 years, running political campaigns, developing software. So to put on the turban of becoming an academic was a little bit different. And I didn't know the difference myself, I have to admit. I didn't know the difference between quantitative and qualitative. So you did an excellent job translating that. But the math is the math. The data is the data. And there is very few times when you do a dissertation that you're able to prove a valid hypothesis, a fact. And this is done by statistics. This is done by multiple regressions. This is done by correlations. And I'm very proud to also have some of the backings of the people that were on my dissertation committee, like Dr. Sanan Aral from MIT, and other individuals like Dr. Michelle Post, who are leaders in the field and said, listen, this is good. I'm glad they pushed me to run it as many times as they did, but the math didn't change. But what was interesting was, I think everyone was sort of shocked that tone played such a great role. Developing the software, the website was an added bonus, but I'm a little geeky in that sense, so I had to do it. But I thought it would be cool because, very simply put, I think knowing what the mood is and not relying on Anderson Cooper or some media talking head to tell us what the interpretation of the tweet is, we can go to Twitterism and actually see what is happening. Is this tweet really getting engagement? Is it really actually not just by the number of likes and retweets? How does it measure against all his tweets? How is it actually trending? And more importantly, what is the sentiment? What is the tone? And is it making an impact? Because we've seen over the time that, like, for example, when he is October 5th, when he made his engagement was up the wazoo, and October 12th, we saw the frequency of his tweets were extremely high. But when his frequency of his tweets was how many times he tweeted, but when his frequency was high, we noticed that the engagement was low, which means that you know, there's only so many times you can like Donald Trump's tweets, you know, right, Karen? You know this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I see you pressing the button.
I'm pressing the button right now. I'm doing it right now. I'm on there right now. I'm looking at the tweets while we're doing this show because I'm like, now I got to go look. I got to look at the tone. I got to look at your website. I'm already doing it. I'm on here right now. I'm looking at your site as we speak.
Chris, this is very dangerous if Karen is figuring this out.
I love it. I love it. And, you know, it's great because this is such a good mix, this interview, because, you know, Chris is the academic on this show and I'm kind of the social media person. Yes. So you're a perfect marriage for an interview between Chris and I. So this has been great today.
That's good. We were joking around before the show. No guru comments, but, you know, I wouldn't mind being the love guru here. So no problem.
You are. You absolutely are. You are. You're now my social media guru, I have to tell you, because what you've done is so incredible. And I mean, the fact that you have this geeky aspect to it and you've actually scientifically proven this is just, it's like awe-inspiring. Like, I don't even have words for it because I can't believe that nobody else has done this before, because this totally changes the way that I think about the president's tweets and the way that I think about Twitter in general, all of Twitter. Now I'm thinking about all these other people and their tone and how do they get engagement and how do I change my tone and engagement, you know, so I can, you know, work my Twitter to my advantage.
Right. And it revolves around the sciences of digital rhetoric, social presence theory, distributed leadership. These were some of the theories that supported this. But, you know, persuasion, as we know, has been from the days of Aristotle, right? I mean, the whole idea of rhetoric itself has been changed by Twitter. So can you imagine what the world will be in 4 years? Every single world leader now has a Twitter account, right? And every single world leader is shaping their economies, their diplomacy, their elections, and their voices on how they communicate to the people through this platform. You know, it's a game changer. So I think it's important to understand the linguistics, as Chris was saying. I think it's important to break it down and dissect this. I think this is something that's hot. It's going to stay hot as we all engage on social media. I mean, literally 3.5 billion people are estimated to be on the internet now or involved in some capacity, involved in social media networks. That's nearly almost, we're reaching half the world's population. You know, it's just mind-boggling. You know, we're going to be drinking and breathing the social media. So, you know, whether it's Twitter, Fitter, Sitter, whatever, you know, it's making an impact on how we shape our lives.
And so we're about to wrap up here. So tell us where folks can find all of the great work that you're doing. So just let us know where they can find you.
Right. No, I appreciate it. Chris, anyone interested could go to www.twitterism.com. That's TWITTERISM.com. And I would ask them to please support my research. I'm publishing the results in a book on Amazon next month, right after the elections, highlighting the results. So I would appreciate any of their support. I started a pre-order campaign on Indiegogo, and it would be awesome. So, but I'm very happy to be here. Karen and Chris, you guys have been so gracious, and I would love to be on your show anytime you guys want to talk about more on social media.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We're going to do that. We're taking you up on that for sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Ravi.
And we're back, folks, from the interview. My goodness, besides the red turban, look at all of that analytical material that he delivered to us. And the fact that you could take tweets, you could take the president's tweets and analyze them in such a manner. Oh, it was great. We had such a great time talking to him.
We did, and we'll have him back, and I'm gonna list the website on Red America Radio for everyone. And I just want to give my little disclaimer that any opinions expressed on this broadcast by myself or Chris, your host, or any of our guests are not the opinions necessarily of our sponsors or any of our broadcast partners.
That's right. We got to do that.
We got to do that because, you know, we are so controversial over here and, you know, we get to be ourselves, and that's the beauty of our show. But I will list Dr. Ravi's site on redamericaradio.com for anyone that wants to go ahead and reach out to him. It'll also be listed on our social media. So you can analyze the president's tweets yourself, because you go on there and he has these great little emojis that tell you the mood of the president, and you can subscribe to the feed there. And it's a great place to actually, just if nothing else, to actually have all of the president's tweets in one place. It's one of the things that I really like about it. Because you're just able to go in there and have the feed and know what the president's thinking and doing and feeling. And it's a really special thing.
Yeah, and folks, in case you're wondering where I am and kind of this, I'm not hiding in the basement like Joe Biden, but we will explain on the next episode where I am and what's going on. So please, I don't want you to think I'm hiding in the basement like Biden.
No, I think we should have like a segment like, where in the world is Chris Metzler? And people can guess where you are, like, you know, which airport you're in, you know, where you're going, what you're doing, because it's always so secretive. And it's one of the things that I love, is this air of mystery about you. So we're gonna find out on the next show what you're doing. But I think everybody should tune in, because it's gonna be super exciting. And there's some really big things happening.
Yes. All right, folks. Well, thank you once again for joining your favorite hosts. We are everywhere. We're global. And thank you, as always, for tuning in to us every week on Red America Radio.
See you next week.
You have been listening to Red America Radio. Straight up conservative talk for today's red-blooded America.